Well, good morning. Welcome to the next video. Got a bit of indigestion. I just enjoyed some Vegemite on crumpets. If you don't know what Vegemite is, it's a yeast remnant. Something left over from making yeast or something. But I always indulge in Vegemite. I think it's delicious, and some people think it's disgusting, but each to their own in the dream. You know, you have to experience things for yourself, but it does give me a little bit of acidity. Anyway, so today, not wanting to harp on about body conditions and different things like that, since I'm not the body and neither are you, but you include the body in and everything in as you seem to find it here anyway, because not to do that is to live in a kind of an astral state where you sort of la 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 la, you know, through life and don't really acknowledge or take responsibility for anything that seems to be going on to you. So the nature of what's going on to you in the overall sense of experiencing life on earth is that I'm doing this to myself. And you can laugh at that when times are good and you can look back and reflect on all the crap you've been through, and then but when you're going through it, it's often hard to remember that. It's often very difficult to bring yourself into an accounting of things when you're right in the middle of a great emotional response to something. And the tendency is, of course, to want to defend yourself, and which only perpetuates the need for that whole cycle to come around again, because a lesson repeats until it is learned. And you won't necessarily recognize the lesson that repeats, because every time it comes around, it changes a bit. Everything in the world changes. It's in a state of constant flux, constant change, like the seasons and the weather and your underpants and everything else. So hopefully your underpants. I wanted to talk today a little bit about time, mind training, and the use of time, and to offer a very simple practice, to offer a very simple witnessing that you can begin to investigate, begin to look at, begin to become horrified with, perhaps, in a good way, like with the notion that you can do something about it now. It wouldn't be very nice of me to show you something horrible about your nature and then leave you stuck there. So the idea of mind training, right? The idea of mind training, if you look at the idea of a new puppy, right? You just going to make it cute and cuddly for a second. You've got a new puppy. Everyone loves puppies, right? But puppies chew up your shoes and they piss on your furniture, on your carpet and everything. And there's probably not too many people that would tolerate that for too long, right? And the puppy is the analogy for your mind. You've got an undisciplined mind. It's constantly wandering off into the past and wandering off the other way into the future, and holding up these placards of things, let's say, you know, these banners in your mind that says, what about this? And what about that? Trying to get you to engage with a narrative that is not here and is not now. The past is already over and gone, and the future never comes. It's an idea, just as the past is. It either exists in memory or anticipation. But life exists here and now. Life is in the present, right? The mind training that we employ through spiritual determination is to learn to, or to help ourselves learn to stay in the present, to stay focused, to stay where we actually are, rather than to be wandering off to what happened yesterday or thinking about something that you want to do in 10 minutes from now. which is especially helpful when you're in a conversation with somebody and you realize that they've been talking to you for a minute and you haven't heard a word they've said because you've been somewhere else in your astral mind thinking about something else. And as soon as they interrupt you and say, are you even listening? You can't even remember what you were thinking about. Mostly. And that bodes to the idea that you're not really thinking at all. You're not really listening at all, right? Because what is real is in this moment. What is true is in the present. And that translates later on down the track as you become more masterful at your mind training into your meditative efforts, into your prayerful efforts to bring the here and the now, the present moment, into alignment with another concept or another principle of spiritual determination, which is stillness. To be perfectly still in the moment here and now. Initially, the idea of be here now is equated with things like conversations and being present in a situation. But it doesn't stop there. It enters the quantum realm as well. It enters into the state of true communication in your mind, where if you were to ask yourself, where am I in my mind? Where is this thing that seems to be thinking in here and delivering these thoughts that I'm able to then speak from the mouthpiece of my body? Where do I come from? Is there a me in there, let's say? And you'll discover, to your astonishment, that there isn't. You're not actually in there at all. In the Course in Miracles, Jesus says you're not even in the body. Right? You're not there at all. It's like the body's a drone being operated by remote control from somewhere else. But you don't remember where the somewhere else is, and you don't remember what you actually are operating the drone thing. I like the movie Avatar, where he goes into the pod, or the Matrix, where he plugs him into the Matrix. He's actually somewhere else, imagining, it's all in the mind, imagining that he's animating him in Avatar. He's animating a physical, synthetic interface, that operates through this robotic kind of thing. But in the Matrix, it presents it in a digital way, but it's the same concept. You're somewhere else, convinced that you're here. It's like when you put on, if you go into an Apple store, you can test their, if you haven't ever tried one, you can have a free test of their virtual reality goggles. And it's amazing. But it's no more amazing than this. Once you have an experience that shows you that this is virtual reality, this is not real, it's just a dream, then it also becomes amazing. It's like, wow. Right? And there's the wow in yes, wow, and thank you that I often talk about in videos. I think I'm slipping down this chair. So I'll just disappear completely. So learning to be present, you have to train the mind like you train a puppy. You don't want the puppy chewing your shoes and pissing all over your furniture. And you don't want your mind telling you what you should be doing by thinking about past things in order to affect changes in future things and all sorts of stuff like that. It might seem perfectly reasonable at first that you would use past experiences as a way to try and guide you through future terrain. But at the expense of all of that, you miss the present moment. You're not really here. You're not really alive. You're not making any new memories. You're engulfed and lost in the fields of absent-mindedness, in imagination and in projection. Not really living at all, existing, debating with yourself about the terrible things of the world or the nice things of the world. What you should be afraid of, or what you don't need to be afraid of. These people and those people. This group of authority figures or that group of authority figures. The world holds out nothing but idols of death. And all of those things you give a meaning to and catalogue it into like pigeonholes of association within your own framework of memory and expectation as a way of supposedly keeping yourself safe until the Grim Reaper comes to take you. What a horrible way of life. What an awful way of life, living in the shadow of fear all that time, you know. I remember a bumper sticker, I think it was, no, maybe it wasn't a bumper sticker, it might have been a poster or something, but that said, it's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. And essentially, I mean, I get the sentiment of you can never die, but the sentiment of it is essentially like face your fears. You know, stop living on your knees. The whole thing you're afraid to do is to be present, is to be in this moment, to be intimate with this moment, to be intimate with another person, with another relationship. Doesn't matter what the relationship looks like. You know, I often use the analogy of the supermarket where you go through the checkout and the poor person at the checkout, and I'm projecting that they're a poor person, so you'll have to forgive me for that, but the poor person at the checkout has to stand there for their 8-hour shift. Hi, how you going? How's your day? And make this mundane, horrible bloody thing. And you know it, right? You know this horrible small talk. And you feel compelled to say something, but you want to get out of there as quick as possible because there's a bit of an uncomfortable moment in the mundanity of life that exists in that particular relationship, which is just a snapshot for all relationships, really. And I just use the supermarket, could be anything, you know, but having to go to the bank or any of these sort of associative sort of body association kind of interactions that you have. It's only when you start to dig into associations with others, let's say, and the idea of others, that represent the notion of healing, that an engagement on a higher level begins to occur, and you begin to actually take on board the idea of paying attention, I suppose, or being intimate, because somewhere in you, you know you're living in the resurrection, you know you're living in the time of your awakening, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. And there's something in you, call that the Christ mind within you or the higher mind within you, that is eager to participate. But of course you have this horrible ego mind. It's not really horrible, but it's definitely not your friend, but it is doing what you have programmed it to do, or have what you have failed to program it to do, actually. It's like if you buy a puppy and don't train it, who are you going to blame? You know, you can't blame the puppy. But its job, as you have left it to run rampant without any kind of discipline, its job is to distract you from the present. Its domain is the past and the future, or the analysis of the present, rather than the being of the present. Right? And you don't want the analysis. You don't need to analyze the present. It's like if life is a gift and life is precious, it's like just accept it. If you analyze it, it's like somebody giving you a gift at Christmas, and you look at it and you go, oh, and you shake it, and it's like, do you like it or not? Are you happy to have even the gift? Imagine if I didn't give you a gift at all. You'd be sitting there going, I didn't get a gift. So learning not to listen to that voice in your head, training yourself like you train a puppy, training yourself not to listen again and again and again. Be vigilant for the kingdom of heaven, which is your own state of inner peace. And when your mind is distracted, because you've been telling yourself to be vigilant for peace, and that peace is now your goal, it will become more and more obvious to you when your mind is distracted. And this is the horrific part. You'll realize that it's 24/7. You're always distracted. You're always thinking about something. The mind is never at rest, never at peace. It doesn't shut up. It doesn't stop. Right? That puppy always pisses in the corner, always chews your shoes. And you start to wish you never got a puppy, and you start to wish that you don't exist in the world because your thoughts become intolerable. And usually by the time a person gets close to their awakening, their thoughts, their horrible thoughts, start to ramp up and become more vicious and suspicious and horrible and judgmental. And you're like, where are these thoughts even coming from? How the fuck do I turn them off? You can't turn them off. You can just refuse to listen. But you have to train yourself to do that. I make a choice. I'm not going to listen to that voice in my mind anymore. And then you have to honor that choice. The next time you find yourself listening to it, you bring yourself back from the future or the past, and you're like, no, I'm here and now. I want to be here and now. This is my choice. I don't know how to be not past and not future, but I'm just going to stay here and now and see what happens. What happens is, after much devotion and practice, along with all the other principles that you apply in your spiritual determination, hopefully, because you don't want to be, you don't want to limit your self-awareness of your full potential in awakening. I mean, the idea of navigating the release from time as an idea of past and future is part of it. But also there is the spherical aspects of, and I talk about the spheres, the higher realms of your spiritual determination, which you will begin to become into contact with and into awareness of once you get your raucous mind under a bit of control. But if you're anything like me, you're probably sitting there at the beginning, like Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I remember being at that single step. I remember realizing at some point how vast or how seemingly impossible the task of mind training appeared. But then again, I was only listening to that voice in my head at that time that was telling me, this is too hard. You're never going to do this, Dave. You'll never manage. It took a while to realize to myself to stop listening to that voice. Even though it said in the course, like, why are you listening to that voice in your head? It's got nothing to offer. The secret to the meaning of life is not amongst your own thoughts. If it was, you would have found it by now. And you'd be happy. It's funny stuff. So you have to train your mind like you train a puppy again and again and again and again until you're sick of the training, until you become so integrated with the training that your mind actually begins to take note and do it by itself, until the puppy begins to take itself outside for a piss and begins to chew the bones you give it instead of your shoes. And it will. A puppy becomes a good dog, right? If you train it. Otherwise, it just becomes a mongrel of a dog and annoys you for its whole 15 years of life. And you're like, I'm never getting another dog. It's like, well, you're too lazy to train it. If you're too lazy to train it, you can't blame the dog. Do you want a peaceful life? Do you want calm and happy and joyous and all of that sort of thing for no reason at all? Or are you still trying to justify your happiness based on your misery? Right? You don't need, this is a big fallacy. People often tell me this. It's like, oh my God, you wouldn't know what happiness was if you didn't have sadness. That's not correct. You'd just be happy for no reason at all. What's wrong with just being happy? Why are you so determined to qualify your happiness rather than just experiencing it? It's like examining the present. Let me look at the present and see what I can squeeze out of it to my advantage. That's what you're trying to do. Instead of just accepting life on its own terms as it is, as unconditional love. It's unconditional love. Fuck's sake, it's not difficult. When is that going to be enough? When is it that you're going to want to stop trying to make something in life more special than something else and just love everyone and everything exactly the same? Well, this is my children, and this is my husband or my wife, and surely they're more important to me. Bullshit. You think anybody stopped to think how important things are in Hiroshima or on the Titanic? You don't have a say in it. Try to realize you don't really have a say in it. It's happening. It's not like you can't say to the Grim Reaper when he comes, well, hang on a minute. Just let me reason this out with you. Whoosh, the scythe, off with your head. It's funny stuff. We think we have a say in life. We think there's something that we can somehow add to unconditional love that is going to improve our circumstances by making some people special at the detriment to the less specialness of other people, splitting unconditional love into two ideas, into two camps, and then finding ourselves having to constantly balance ourselves in the yin-yang of the decision we've made to separate love into pieces. It's pointless. There's nothing more unstable than the notion of balance, and that's directly from my teacher's teacher. Try to hear that. There is nothing more unstable than the notion of balance. How tiresome, constantly having to balance. Every time something changes in your environment, in your life, in your situation at work, home, everywhere. Balance. How fucking exhausting. Why do that? Stop trying to make one thing more important than another or one thing less important than another. It's all the same. It's all one. Love is one. You don't need this yin-yang mentality. Mine and yours, better and worse, sick and healthy, rich and poor, fit and sick. Sick and healthy, I did that one. Worthy and unworthy. All those opposites, all those pairs of opposites that you live under. You don't need it, right and wrong. What is right and wrong? You think all the laws and all the rules that man has ever made has ever stopped anyone from killing anyone? Ever stopped Cain from belting Abel over the head with a rock? Nah. We'll just keep putting people in jail until those laws work. The obvious futility of it is just so astonishing. I don't see, it's like you realize that people have eyes but don't see. Like Jesus says, you don't even see. Forgive them, Lord. They know not what they do. Just keep locking everyone up until you think those laws are working. We'll keep punishing everybody. People keep coming to this planet and doing naughty things. Who says it's naughty? Look where you find yourself. You find yourself in a planet where all things die, where people get sick, where things happen seemingly for no reason. Children are born into suffering. You try to arbitrate it with laws and rules. You can't. Give up. It's a fool's game. The idea that you would try to control it only perpetuates it. Stop listening to the voice in your head that tells you how to control things and tells you how to manage things and tells you what your safety actually is, and let God be your safety. Let unconditional love be your safety. Learn to live from the Spirit and walk with the Spirit. God goes with me wherever I go. I'm in danger nowhere in the world. That's an action of faith in the mind, and faith is its own reward. Once you begin to practice faith, even in little things, it will carry you through to the threshold of every situation that you find you have difficulty navigating, so that you can begin to apply faith even to those situations, even if you think they're big. Remember that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. That's why it's a miracle. You're learning to be miracle-minded. You're learning to be God-minded. Let go and let God. Not let go and then try to control it again. Let go and let God. It's really funny. Oh, man. Uh, I can laugh because I can see I still have these, they're pretty vague now, but I still have these memories of an idea of a Dave when I thought I was a body, and trying to navigate the world, and all my best efforts and all my efforts to try and seduce women and get money and get on top of situations and do all this sort of thing. Why? I ask myself, why? Because that voice in the head that is untrained tells you, do this, just do this, say these words. Say these words, I promise you, it'll be to your advantage. No, it isn't. It never is. It's never to my advantage. It just sets up another cycle of learning where I realise that separating myself from other people, situations and events only brings me pain, suffering and death. You learn to laugh at yourself. You really do. That's why the Buddha always laughing. The laughing Buddha. I went to Nantian Temple many years ago, which is the biggest Buddhist temple in the southern hemisphere. Apparently, it's got 8 pagoda roofs or stupas or whatever they're called. No, the stupa's the other thing. I forget now, but they have this beautiful courtyard. It's really lovely. It's massive. Like they've got this enormous, as you would expect for the biggest temple. But this big courtyard, and you walk around the courtyard, and they have these plaques on the walls. I think there's some illustrations with them as well. And the plaques take you through this mental, visual understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. And each plaque is like a certain station or a certain principle, a certain ideology of Buddhism. And it's beautiful. By the time when you start at the gate where you go in and you end up all the way around at the lunchroom, which is, I guess, where it's not really the lunchroom, but where it finishes, you're completely shell-shocked. You're completely changed as a person. As soon as you walk out the gate and go home, you're not going to really remember it because it's not ingrained enough in you to have a lasting effect, But in that moment, in that presence of reading those things and going to the next one, you're like, the light bulb goes on. And it is, if you're ever in Wollongong and you see the big temple on the side of the highway there, go in. They offer free lunch, vegetarian. It's delicious too, actually. And you'll be a welcome guest there. It's very, very, very nice atmosphere. But one of the things that I liked there was they have this little, I guess it's a kind of a garden, a rock garden. And there are statues of the Buddha in the different stages of his awakening. And I'm not sure if it was the final stage, but it's close to the final stage, the laughing Buddha, where the uncontrollable laughter. And there's the first stage of renunciation and all of this sort of thing, and it tells you about each stage. And having already had an awakening before I went there, I was actually driving to Sydney, and I saw it on the side of the highway. I'm like, I didn't know this existed. Being a curious fellow for anything spiritual, I pulled in. But I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, I tried to find myself, having had an awakening, I tried to find my own process in conjunction with the statue garden, of the Buddha's particular stages of his awakening. And I did. I could find all those stages in my own journey. And in realising that, I realised that also those stages are the stages that everybody goes through in their awakening. And it was quite comprehensive. It was quite good. It was brief in a certain sense, but like it touched the sides everywhere, It's like it filled all the holes and everything like that. It was really cool. So anyway, and that's all memory in the past, but it's useful, I guess, in bringing about emphasis to the importance of training the mind, and all of these little stories, even though they're in my past, they all have a relevance. It's not just like I remember stories from the past about television shows that I've watched, if they have no significance. And that's the funny thing about awakening. You'll notice it yourself if you're fairly advanced, that you can't remember things. All you can remember is things that are useful, things that are helpful. All of the things, like all of the grievances you've forgiven, and they all just sort of peter out and fade away, just like the voice in your mind does when you refuse to listen to it. When you train yourself not to listen to the ego voice, it just fades off. It's like a bully, once you stand up to it and you say, I'm not going to allow you to bully me anymore, well, the bully's got nowhere else to go. It's got to go find something else to do. Like a spoilt brat, you just ignore it. And eventually it gets tired of stomping its foot, and it either has to have a nap or it goes away and does something else. Think of the ego as like an imaginary friend, but a very persistent one. It exists because you believe it. It exists because you believe it exists, and you give it credibility and validate it and everything by listening to it. But you don't need it throughout the day. You're quite capable of living in the here and the now and being present with your life, in the intimacy of life, in the vulnerability and the openness and the defenselessness of life, without having to listen to that voice at all. Because when you live from the spirit, you become part of the flow, part of the force, part of the God energy or the God light of the experience of the awakening that you find yourself in. You're included. You're not special all of a sudden. You're not worse than anyone, and you're not better than anyone. You're just one of, for want of, it's not exactly accurate. There's nobody else out there if you really are doing this in a singular fashion. But everyone is you. No better, no worse. All men are equal, as Jesus says in the Bible. We are all one, says the Buddha. Anyway, that's it. Just a short one. I'm shrinking down here. I'm just bit by bit. Get back. This is quite a comfortable chair. I don't think I'll be able to fit this chair in my mobile home when I leave this house very shortly. But it's been a good accompaniment for a moment. I love you guys, and I hope these videos are helpful. I know they are. A lot of you guys tell me that they're helpful. I know that my teacher's teachings were very helpful to me, and his before him. And I hope you can take on board these teachings and take on board these messages of redemption. And apart from the fact that there's nothing to be redeemed from, my only advice to you really is probably don't spread your Vegemite as thick as I do. Sitting here struggling with a bit of indigestion now. It's powerful stuff, Vegemite. I sent a jar of Vegemite to Tyna once, and she thought it was absolutely disgusting. It's our national food. I can't believe people think it's disgusting, or I can't believe it's in our national food. Some people have really nice national foods. Our national dish is roast something with, vegetables supreme, blah, 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 or whatever. You go to the Chinese restaurant and their most favorite dish is the Royal Emperor chicken or whatever, lemon chicken or something. I don't know. Ours is Vegemite. All right, I love you. Thank you. Peace.